Hello YouTube and welcome back into another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Elden Ring and we're doing another build guide, and again we're going to be following up with our level 200 build series. So these are going to be ones that I am demonstrating on a New Game Plus 2 account, so keep that in mind when you see damages being done, that obviously anything I can do on here will be higher damage in the earlier playthrough. But also these just make really good builds for different types of playstyles in the later games, because if you've progressed much through the New Game Pluses, you'll know that the bosses get significantly more difficult and you usually have to specialize quite a bit more. I mean, at least if you don't want every single fight to be a non-stop rolling, grinding slog, which, you know, not everybody is into. So this build is called the Build of Ice and Fire. I know, haha, very witty. So basically what we're going to be doing here is going for ice proc and interrupting that with fire rather frequently, so we can constantly be redoing the ice buildup. It works pretty well. There's a lot of different ways to do this. As you can see, I went with a twin rapier style build for it, and I'll explain why when I get to the gear section, but it is a pretty solid build. But like I said, the basic focus of it is using a spell that makes you emit fire damage to anyone nearby you, and then just constantly doing ice buildup. So it's constantly resetting the ice buildup, because that's what the fire does, in addition to also causing some damage. So that's the basic crux of this build. So let's just start it off and get started with the levels that I recommend for this build. Alright, as you can see, we're at level 200, of course, and we're going to go down through the attribute points. So for vigor, I have it at 45. It's smart to have your vigor as high as you can, just because obviously that's going to give you quite a bit more hit points, so that's the importance of vigor. For our mind, we have it at 20, and that's just so we can cast a couple times, because there is a little bit of a requirement there for magic on this build, because that's how we get our fire to be pretty consistent. Endurance, we have at 15. That's as high as I could make it, and we're going to be pairing that with the Talisman to make sure we can actually wear this much armor. Strength 45, dexterity of 69, intelligence of 45, Faith of 30, and Arcane of 10. So your primary ones to focus on in this build are going to be Dexterity, Intelligence, and Strength, because that's what our weapons are going to scale with. So the higher those are, the better we're going to do for damage output. And then, of course, secondary things being Vigor, Mind, and to a lesser extent Faith, depending on how much you want to incorporate casting into this build, because you could also make it kind of a Spellblade type build where you're also casting a number of incantations or spells. It's really up to you. So those ones are going to be things that you can play with more to customize for your specific playstyle. So that's the stats that I recommend going with for this one. As far as weapons, there's a number of ways that you could go with this. So like I said, obviously there's different ways to do this type of build. There's one of the swords, I think it's the Zamor Greatsword, that has a special attack that is really good for ice buildup, so that's another one that is a good option to go with. I personally like the dual wielding builds better, so that's why I go with the dual rapiers. And now, when it comes to rapiers themselves, I went with the S-stocks just because when you've got them upgraded like this and you've got your skills put out like I have them here, they just have the highest DPS, and you can do some pretty sweet frost buildup on them with the Ashes of War that I used on here. Otherwise, some good alternatives would be the Frozen Needles. They deal quite a bit of frost buildup, not this much, but still a considerable amount, and obviously you still have the really fast moveset of rapiers. Or if you want to do one like I've done here, if you just upgrade the standard rapier with these Ashes of War that I've got on here, which is the Hoarfrost Stomp on my main hand and the Chilling Mist on my offhand, you can get that 105 frost buildup, but also you have the advantage with the standard rapiers of having a much higher crit score. So it really depends how you use these. I don't go for a lot of sneak attacks or crits, and since I'm not staggering enemies with a build like this, I'm not going to be going for those mid-battle crits that much. So I sacrificed the higher crit rating for a decently higher physical damage power with the S-stock over the standard rapier. So like I said, there are three that I would recommend, three different setups as far as rapiers go on a build like this, but I think the S-stocks are my personal favorite. Then we're going to also want to have a seal, and I'm using the giant seal here because the incantation that I'm using is a giant's flame incantation. So even though it's not there to cause the damage, it does cause a little bit more damage. So basically the only reason I use the giant seal. Otherwise you could use any one, just the stock finger seal, which you can purchase at Round Table Hold, would work perfectly fine. Then for our outfit, we have a nice themed one that I think looks rather well. We have the Banished Knight's helm, the unaltered version, so we have the cloth shawl thing wrapped around it. The Bloodhound Knight armor, which looks really, really nice with this outfit. The Raging Wolf gauntlets and the Raging Wolf greaves. So I think that this outfit looks rather nice together, and it kind of fits the theme of like an ice and fire type thing, because it looks like the armor looks like maybe it's been scarred a bit by fire, but it also looks like someone that's maybe in a cold region, because the armor itself has like a cape thing on it, and there's a shawl wrapped around the helmet, so I think it works rather well for that. For our talismans, I'm going to recommend the Fire Scorpion Charm, which raises fire attack but lowers your damage negation, so this is going to help that with the fire that we're using for this build. This will just make it deal more damage, so I think it makes sense to have on there. Then our Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, which greatly raises attack power with successive attacks. Since we're dual wielding rapiers, we're going to be going for that fast successive attack type style. So this is going to raise our attack power for that. Then we have the Great Jar's Arsenal, which just raises your maximum equipment load. This was basically so I didn't have to put any extra points in endurance to wear heavier armor like this, because with level 15 endurance and this talisman, we can wear this and still stay in the medium load range. So that's why I use the Great Jar's Arsenal. If you've got more points to put into endurance, maybe you want to put less in faith or less in mind or something like that, then you can pop a couple more points in endurance, and then you could use a different talisman instead of the Great Jar's Arsenal. Then I have the Godskin Swaddling Cloth, which is one of my favorite attacks, which is one of my favorite talismans for builds like this, because successive attacks restore HP. So this one will keep us healing the whole time we're fighting. Not that useful in mob type fights, because most mobs you're going to kill in 1 or 2 hits anyway, so you're not going to see any great increases. But in boss fights, every single successive hit you get is going to dump HP back into your life bar. So I find it to be very useful. So those are the talismans I recommend going with. Again, there's a lot of wiggle room here. Really, it's going to come down to personal playstyle, but I think this combination works really, really well. For our summoning ashes, again, I'm just going to recommend the Mimic tier like I usually do, because if we're going with a good build, a second one is just going to make it even better. Then for our Flask of Wondrous Physic, I put the Flame Shrouding Crack tier, which is going to boost fire attacks, so again, it's going to help our fire do more damage, and the Thorny Crack tier, which is going to boost successive attack bar, which is going to help with our rapid rapier double thrusting attack type. So that's the way that I like to go with the physics. So yeah, like I said, I really, really like the way that this outfit turned out. I think it looks really nice. Great color combinations, has just enough kind of ragged stuff going to it to give it a lot of character. So, like I said, I think the outfit turned out great. Obviously, it's down to just personal preference. I kept it light enough so that I wouldn't have to have a lot of points in endurance, but could stay medium load. But this also does give a decent amount of protection. So, like I said, armor isn't actually important to it. You don't get any cool buffs through these pieces, but it does look very cool. So as far as the process goes for using this build, I'll explain it. It's a 5-step process. So basically, it's going to go like this. So you drink your Physic, and then you're going to cast Golden Vow, and then we're going to cast Flame Grant Me Strength, and then you cast Fire's Deadly Sin, and now we're ready to go in and do our combat. Now, obviously, I'm not by a boss right here. I will demonstrate on some bosses, but this is the basic premise, that you go in and you can just easily build up your frost buildup really, really quickly, and the flame from Fire's Deadly Sin is going to be constantly breaking that frost buildup, so you get to build it up again. So it makes it a very, very effective way to deal a lot of both fire and frost damage in rapid succession. Now, like I said, it's mostly just going to be something that's useful against bosses, but it does work in regular combat too, just because a build like this allows you to quickly output a lot of damage. So let's go test it out against some bosses. Alright, so we're gonna follow up on that process again. So Flask of Physic, Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, Fire's Deadly Sin, and now we're ready to fight. And so, it makes even, to be fair, Magmorm's not a terribly difficult fight, but it turns it into something that you don't really need to try that much for. You can see without a whole lot of dodging or rolling, we took quite a bit of damage there, but we were constantly refilling it the whole time because we have the Godskin Swaddling Cloth on. So, like I said, I think it helps a lot in a lot of circumstances. So the pumpkin heads must be slightly more susceptible to frost and fire damage than the magma worm was, because that was quite a bit easier than I was expecting. Commander O'Neill could do nothing to stop our amazing ice and fire. Got a little distracted in there because I couldn't do my special attack for some reason. But, you know, whatever. Is what it is. Falling Star Beast. One of my least favorite enemies. He got a hit on us. That ain't bad. He did pretty good. But yeah, so as I should as I should think should be pretty obvious, this is a solid build. We're on New Game Plus 2, and it allows you to shred through most boss-type enemies. Now, obviously, you'll come up against people who aren't susceptible to Frost, but it's pretty rare. Frost is one of the most broadly applicable ones in this game. And like I said, there's lots of different ways to do it. I just find the dual rapier style is one of my favorites because of how quickly you can do it. Just the attacks, the speed of the attacks is so fast, and also because when you're using these Ashes of War that I've got on here, which are Hoarfrost Stomp and Chilling Mist, you can get that 105 Frost buildup if your stats are like this. So it's just really, really effective, and like I said, it's a lot of fun to play with. So that is my build of Ice and Fire. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. I definitely recommend giving it a try, but that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.